Do you ever feel like your mind is a battlefield? A quiet, exhausting, day in, day out war against your own thoughts. It's that feeling of being constantly busy, but never productive. Endlessly connected to screens, yet feeling profoundly alone. This state of inner chaos, this mental fog, is not a personal failure. It's not a lack of discipline. It's a fundamental force of the universe that has a name: psychological entropy. It is the invisible law that, left unchecked, will always pull your mind toward disorder, fragmentation, and burnout. It's the hidden reason you feel drained, scattered, and lose your sense of purpose. But you are not powerless against it. The psychologist Carl Jung didn't just diagnose this condition, he created the blueprint to reverse it. And this video is that blueprint. We are about to drag this enemy into the light and give you 3 specific, powerful Jungian tools, not to fight the chaos, but to transform it into focus, resilience, and a deep, unshakable sense of meaning. Stay with me, because this is how you stop being a prisoner of your mind and become its architect. The first step in healing any condition is a proper diagnosis. Psychological entropy isn't a sudden heart attack. It's a slow, creeping fog, a gradual accumulation of psychic dust and debris that obscures the landscape of your mind. It manifests in ways we often dismiss as just a bad week or burnout. But these are actually critical warning signals that your inner system is moving dangerously toward total disorder. There are 3 primary signals you must learn to recognize in yourself and in others. The first, and perhaps the most universally felt symptom of our time, is the arrival of a persistent mental fog. This isn't just the simple forgetfulness of misplacing your keys or forgetting a name. This is a deeper, more pervasive cognitive haze. Consider the story of a woman we'll call Sarah. Sarah is a talented graphic designer in her early 30s. On paper, she is the image of success. Her portfolio is impressive, her clients are happy. But internally, Sarah's world feels like a web browser, with 100 tabs open, all of them playing different audio tracks. She sits down at her desk to start a new project, a task that once would have excited her, and an invisible wall goes up. Her mind, once a clear channel for creativity, now feels like a swamp of static. She'll read a client's email, get to the end, and realize she has absorbed nothing. She'll spend hours jumping between old files, half-hearted sketches, and the endless scroll of social media, achieving a state of being incredibly busy, while producing nothing of value. At the end of the day, she is left with a profound sense of guilt and exhaustion, staring at a blank canvas. This is the mental fog of high entropy. It's a state where your focus is shattered into a million tiny, useless fragments. Your ability to think critically, to hold a complex idea in your mind, to plan for the future, and to make clear, confident decisions becomes severely compromised. You begin to live in a state of constant panicked reactivity, lurching from one urgent but unimportant demand to the next. A firefighter who only deals with the blaze right in front of him, never able to look at the blueprint of the building. This fog is the direct result of entropy. Your cognitive energy, your very life force, has become so scattered and disorganized that it can no longer coalesce into a focused beam of attention. It's a critical sign that the signal of your true intention is being drowned out by the noise of psychic chaos. And the way out isn't a better productivity app or another cup of coffee. The way out is a radical act of subtraction that we will explore, a practice Jung might have called psychic hygiene. The second warning signal is what can only be described as the emotional roller coaster. This is when you lose your emotional equilibrium, your center of gravity. Your feelings start to feel less like appropriate responses to life and more like violent, unpredictable hijackings. You find yourself reacting with a level of rage that is completely disproportionate to the trigger, exploding because someone is driving too slowly in front of you, or feeling a surge of white-hot anger at a mildly critical email from your boss. Or perhaps it swings the other way, into profound despair. A casual comment from a friend, a sad song on the radio, or a sentimental commercial can plunge you into a state of inexplicable sadness that lasts for hours, a heavy gray blanket that you can't seem to shake off. It feels as though your emotional skin has been worn paper thin, leaving your nerves raw and exposed to the world. Carl Jung understood that our emotions are, at their core, pure energy. In a healthy, ordered psyche, a low-entropy system, this emotional energy flows like a powerful river. It has force, it has depth, but it moves within a defined, predictable channel. It nourishes the landscape of our lives. When psychological entropy takes over, that river breaks its banks. It becomes a chaotic, unpredictable, and destructive flood. The regulating structures of the psyche have been eroded. You lose the ability to act as a container for your own feelings. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's a symptom of a system that has been completely overwhelmed. Your psyche is so cluttered with unprocessed thoughts, unresolved inner conflicts, and the relentless pressures of the outside world that it no longer has the capacity or the space to absorb the normal shocks and disappointments of daily life. Every new stimulus, no matter how small, becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back, threatening to trigger a catastrophic emotional cascade. If you feel that you are no longer in the driver's seat of your own emotions, if you feel that you are merely a terrified passenger on a ride you can't predict and certainly can't control, then you are experiencing a critical symptom of high psychological entropy. The solution isn't to numb the emotions, but to rebuild the riverbanks, to reconstruct the psychic container. And we will get to exactly how that is done. The third and most profound warning signal is the creeping, silent presence of a meaning vacuum. This is a deep, existential symptom that can be the most unsettling of all. On the surface, your life can look perfectly fine, even enviable. You have a job that pays the bills, you have friends and family, you have responsibilities and routines, but beneath the surface of all this activity, there's a hollow echo, a quiet, persistent ache. Let's imagine another person, a man we'll call Mark. Mark is 45, a mid-level manager at a respectable company. He's married, has 2 children, and a mortgage. He has ticked all the boxes he was told to tick. He does what he is supposed to do. But in the quiet moments, driving to work or late at night after everyone else is asleep, a terrifying question surfaces. Is this it? The work that once felt challenging now feels like a series of pointless meetings and bureaucratic hurdles. The hobbies he once loved, like playing the guitar or hiking, now seem like too much effort. The couch and the television are easier. His life has become a series of motions to be gone through, a checklist of tasks to be completed before he can finally rest, only to wake up and do it all over again. He is living a life that is technically functional, but spiritually it is barren. This is the meaning vacuum. Jung believed that the human psyche has an innate, desperate, and non-negotiable need for meaning. Meaning is the ultimate organizing principle. It is the sun in our inner solar system, the gravitational force that holds all the orbiting planets of our life, our work, our relationships, our struggles, in a coherent, purposeful dance. When entropy runs rampant, its first victim is this central star. The chaos scatters this force. Your connection to your core values, your deepest passions, and your sense of a greater purpose becomes frayed and then severed. You begin to live a life guided not by an internal compass, but by external demands. This is perhaps the most dangerous state of all, because a life without meaning is a life without a why. And without a why, we can endure almost any how. But with no why, even the easiest how becomes an unbearable burden. If you look at the landscape of your own life and feel that profound sense of, is this all there is? Please know you are not just having a bad day. You are receiving a distress signal from the very core of your soul. A desperate warning that your psychological entropy has reached a critical, unsustainable level. So, the question becomes, why is this happening to so many of us, right now, with such intensity? It feels like a silent epidemic of inner chaos. It's because our modern world, for all its wonders, has become a perfect incubator for psychological entropy. We are living in a meticulously engineered storm, and there are three primary forces fueling its relentless intensity. The first, and most obvious, is the relentless mental bombardment of the information age. Our brains, the product of millions of years of evolution, in environments of information scarcity, are now subjected to a constant, overwhelming deluge of data that we are simply not equipped to handle. Think of Sarah's day. It begins not with quiet reflection, but with the siren call of her smartphone. Before her feet even touch the floor, she has been exposed to a dozen emails demanding her attention, a stream of curated perfection on Instagram, making her feel inadequate, and a blast of terrifying news headlines from around the world. Every notification, every email, every news alert, every social media post is a small but insistent demand on your finite cognitive resources. Individually, they seem trivial, but collectively, they are a death by 1,000 cuts. They are what the author Nicholas Carr called interruptions. They shatter your ability to engage in deep linear thought. They disrupt your brain's natural rhythms of focus and rest. They keep your nervous system in a state of low-grade, perpetual alert, a state of fight or flight that was designed for escaping predators, not for scrolling through feeds. Jung spoke often of the absolute necessity for the psyche to have periods of quiet contemplation, what he called introversion, not as a personality type, but as a psychic process. It is in these moments of turning inward that we process our experiences, consolidate memories, and integrate new information into a coherent worldview. The modern world has declared total war on this quiet space. We are relentlessly encouraged to consume, to react, to share, to be always on, always available. This digital noise doesn't just distract us, it actively prevents our minds from doing their most essential housekeeping. It's like trying to organize a library while 1,000 people are simultaneously shouting and throwing books at you. The natural, inevitable result is not order, but an ever-accumulating pile of chaotic, unprocessed mental clutter. This constant bombardment is the primary external driver of your internal entropy. The second force, one that is deeply rooted in Jungian thought, is the crushing, invisible weight of the persona's toll. The persona, as Jung defined it, is the social mask we wear to navigate the world. It's the professional, agreeable, competent version of ourselves we present in a meeting. It's the friendly, easygoing neighbor who makes small talk over the fence. It's the supportive, always on-it friend who never reveals their own struggles. A persona is not inherently bad. In fact, It's a necessary and healthy tool for social cohesion. The danger, as Jung warned with prophetic clarity, comes when we mistake the mask for our actual face. When we over-identify with the role we are playing. This is where Mark's story becomes a cautionary tale. Every morning, Mark puts on his manager armor. The mask says, "I am confident. I am decisive. I am in control." But underneath the armor, the real Mark is filled with self-doubt, creative ideas that don't fit the corporate mold, and a deep weariness. In a team meeting, a junior colleague proposes a risky but brilliant idea. The persona, the mask of the competent manager, feels threatened. It prioritizes stability and predictability. So, Mark finds himself gently but firmly shutting the idea down, using corporate jargon about managing risk and staying within scope. In that moment, a small part of the real Mark, the part that admires creativity and courage, dies. He can feel it. He goes home, and his wife asks him how his day was. The persona answers for him. "Productive. Things are on track." He withholds the truth of his inner conflict, his frustration, his sense of being a fraud. Every moment he spends upholding this persona, he is spending precious psychological energy. The greater the gap between who he truly is, with all his flaws, contradictions, and messy emotions, and the perfect, stable mask he presents to the world, the more energy this performance consumes. It creates a deep internal split, a state of constant low-grade self-betrayal. This performance is a full-time job that he doesn't even realize he's working. And this colossal energetic drain leaves him with fewer resources to manage his actual inner life, to connect with his family, or to pursue his passions. His true self, starved of energy and authentic expression, becomes weak and disorganized, while the demands of maintaining the mask become ever more exhausting. This is the persona's toll, and it is a primary reason why so many of us feel profoundly tired and inwardly chaotic, even when our external lives seem perfectly polished and in order. The solution isn't to violently rip off the mask and show up to work in a chaotic mess. It is to learn how to master the mask so that you are wearing it instead of it wearing you. The third and most hidden force fueling our entropy is the silent, ongoing rebellion of the inner shadow. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, is one of the most brilliant and useful concepts ever conceived. It is the repository, the dark bag we all carry, for everything we have disowned about ourselves. It's all the parts of our personality that our family, our culture, and we ourselves have deemed unacceptable, weak, or shameful. It's our raw anger, our biting envy, our deep-seated fear, our profound laziness, our secret insecurities, our forbidden desires. Our conscious mind, our ego, works tirelessly, day and night, to repress these traits, to lock them away in the basement of our psyche and pretend they don't exist. But here is the critical, life-altering truth that Jung discovered. What we repress does not disappear. It does not die. It festers. It gathers energy in the dark. And it actively, ingeniously, works against us. An unacknowledged shadow doesn't just sit quietly in the basement. It wages a guerrilla war against the conscious self. How does it create chaos? Firstly, it projects itself onto others. You find yourself having an irrationally intense dislike for a lazy coworker. In Jungian terms, it's highly likely you are projecting your own disowned laziness onto them. The chaos this creates is immense. Unnecessary conflicts, toxic judgments, and a distorted view of reality. Secondly, the shadow sabotages our best efforts. Just as you are about to achieve a major goal, you do something self-destructive. This is often the shadow at work, unconsciously believing you don't deserve success, and ensuring you remain where it feels safe. Finally, it bubbles up in moments of stress as uncontrollable outbursts or compulsive behaviors. The sudden road rage, the inexplicable shopping spree, the third glass of wine. This is the shadow, the source of that terrifying feeling of being your own worst enemy. Now, consider the immense amount of energy required every single day to keep these powerful parts of yourself suppressed. It is a constant, draining internal conflict, an ongoing state of psychic civil war. This war is the very definition of psychological entropy. It is a system violently divided against itself, bleeding energy and generating disorder at its very root. Until you have the courage to turn around, open the basement door, and face what you have hidden within your own psyche, your shadow will continue its rebellion. It will ensure that no matter how much order you try to impose on the surface of your life, there will always be an undercurrent of chaos pulling you back under. Faced with this three-headed monster, the external bombardment of information, the internal performance of the persona, and the hidden rebellion of the shadow, our instinctive, logical reaction is to fight. We try to impose order through sheer force of will. We download more productivity apps to manage the information. We use affirmations to bolster the persona. We use shame and self-criticism to beat the shadow back into submission. But this is like trying to hold back a tsunami with a garden fence. It not only fails, it exhausts us to the point of collapse. The path to restoring order, the true Jungian path, is radically counterintuitive. The secret is to stop fighting the chaos and instead learn to become a container for it. Imagine you were caught in a powerful riptide at the beach. Your frantic, panicked instinct is to swim directly against it, to fight it with all your might. But anyone who knows the ocean will tell you that this is the one thing that will guarantee you drown. It exhausts your energy until the current pulls you under. The correct, albeit terrifying solution is to relax, to stop fighting, and to let the current carry you until it dissipates, and then to swim parallel to the shore. This is a perfect metaphor for the psyche. Your chaotic thoughts and painful emotions are the riptide. Your desperate attempt to control and suppress them is the frantic swimming that drains your life force. To become a container is to learn to relax in the riptide. It's a profound shift in identity. You must move from being a victim of your inner weather to becoming the vast, stable, unchanging sky that holds all weather. The sun, the clouds, the thunder, the lightning. The sky doesn't fight the storm. It doesn't judge the storm. It simply contains it. It gives it the space to exist, to rage, and eventually, to pass. How do you do this? You cultivate the art of conscious non-judgmental observation. When a chaotic thought like, "I'm a complete failure," arises, instead of immediately either believing it or fighting it, you take a step back and simply notice it. You say to yourself, there is the thought that I am a failure. You treat it not as an ultimate truth, but as a mental event, like a cloud passing in the sky of your awareness. You create a space between you, the silent observer, and the noisy thought. In this space, a miracle happens. The thought or emotion, when it is not fueled by your resistance or your blind identification with it, begins to lose its power. It can no longer hijack your entire being. This act of conscious, loving, and detached observation is the ultimate anti-entropic force. It doesn't eliminate the chaos, but it prevents the chaos from taking over the entire system. It builds a structure, a vessel, a psychic container strong enough to hold the raw, powerful energy of your psyche, so that it can be understood and eventually transformed. rather than simply and destructively acted out. This is the great turning point, the profound realization that true, lasting inner order comes not from control, but from containment. This shift from being a fighter to being a container is the philosophical foundation. Now, we need the practical, grounded tools to build that container and begin the alchemical work of transforming the lead of our chaos into the gold of integrated consciousness. Jung's work is a treasure trove of these tools, but we will focus on three of the most powerful and transformative laws for rebuilding your inner world. The first law is to name your demons through the courageous practice of shadow journaling. This is not a Dear Diary exercise about your day. This is a deep-sea dive, an honest, unflinching excavation of your own darkness. Its power lies in a fundamental psychological principle. That which is unconscious controls us from the outside, as fate. But that which we make conscious, we can begin to integrate and relate to from the inside. Your unnamed fears, your secret resentments, and your buried shames are the demons that unconsciously write the script of your life. Naming them is the first step toward reclaiming your power as the author. Let's return to Sarah, our burnt-out graphic designer. How would she practice this? She sets aside 15 minutes at the end of her day, a time when she will not be disturbed. She opens a notebook and starts not with a blank page, but with a specific, probing question. She could ask herself, what quality in my colleague David irritates me beyond all reason? She thinks of David, who seems effortlessly confident and is always promoting his own work. Her conscious persona tells her she dislikes him because he is an arrogant show-off. But in the privacy of her journal, she can be more honest. She writes without censorship. She lets the ugly, irrational, petty thoughts come out. I hate how he talks about his successes. It makes me feel small. It makes me angry. It feels unfair. Then, she takes the next crucial step. She asks the shadow question, where in my own life, perhaps in a tiny, hidden way, do I wish I could be more like David? Where have I suppressed my own desire for recognition? Suddenly, a memory surfaces. A few years ago, she did a brilliant project, but she was too shy to present it to the senior partners herself. A male colleague presented it and got all the credit. She buried her anger and resentment, telling herself it was unprofessional to want the spotlight. In that moment of journaling, she realizes her intense irritation with David is the projected ghost of her own disowned ambition. She isn't just angry at him. She is angry with herself for staying small. This is the alchemy. The moment she writes this down, the demon is named. The vague, chaotic anger she felt now has a story, a source. It's no longer a mysterious force sabotaging her mood. It's a wounded part of herself that needs attention. By writing it down, she has dragged it from the dark, emotional, unconscious part of her brain into the light of conscious linguistic processing. She has externalized it. It is no longer a menacing feeling inside her. It is words on a page outside her. This simple act creates that crucial space for observation. She can look at her written ambition and say, I see this part of me that wants to be recognized, rather than being unconsciously driven by the bitter envy of that part. This practice, done consistently, is an act of profound courage. It systematically reduces the power of the unconscious shadow by making it known. Each demon you name is one less force creating chaos from the dark. The second law for restoring order is to find your psychological North Star, to discover and align your life with a core sense of meaning. As we've established, A lack of meaning is not just a symptom of high entropy. It is a primary cause. Therefore, the active, conscious cultivation of meaning is the most powerful antidote. Meaning acts as the central organizing principle we spoke of, the gravitational force that pulls the scattered, floating pieces of your life into a coherent and purposeful whole. This is fundamentally different from setting goals. Goals are destinations on a map. Meaning is the compass that tells you which way is north. Goals are about what you want to achieve or acquire. A promotion, a house, a fitness level. Meaning is about who you want to be and what you want to serve. To be a compassionate person, to create beauty, to seek truth. A life full of achieved goals, but devoid of meaning, will still feel intensely chaotic. Let's look at Mark, our manager trapped in the meaning vacuum. For him, this work is not about finding a new job tomorrow. It's about rediscovering the internal compass he lost long ago. He too can use a journal for this, for a deeper, more reflective exploration. He must ask himself a different set of questions. Questions that probe beneath the surface of his socially approved life. He could start with this one. When, in my life, have I felt most alive, most authentic, most truly myself? He must let go of what he's supposed to say. Maybe it wasn't closing a big deal at work. Maybe it was a summer in college when he volunteered to build houses. He remembers the feeling of physical exhaustion, mixed with the profound satisfaction of creating something real and useful with his hands. He writes about that feeling. That is a clue. Then, a second question. What injustice in the world, big or small, makes my blood boil? At first, he thinks of big global issues, but then something more personal comes to mind. He thinks about the brilliant idea from his junior colleague that he shut down. He realizes he is deeply angered by cultures, at work and in the world, that stifle creativity and courage in favor of safety and conformity. He feels a surge of energy as he writes about this. That is another clue. Finally, he asks the big one. If I knew I could not fail, and money was no object, what is the one contribution I would want to make to the world? He lets his mind drift past the sensible answers, and a surprising image comes to him. A workshop. He sees himself, older, in a wood shop, teaching young people how to build things, how to turn raw materials into something beautiful and functional. A place that combines his forgotten love of making things with his newfound value for fostering creativity. This exploration won't make him quit his job on Monday, but it has given him a North Star. Now, his life has a new organizing principle. He can start to make small shifts. Maybe he starts spending an hour on Saturdays in his garage, woodworking again. Maybe in the next meeting, when a new idea is proposed, he chooses to be its champion instead of its executioner. These small actions, when aligned with a core meaning, begin to reverse the flow of entropy. They provide a powerful filter to cut through the noise of daily life. He can ask, does this action, this meeting, this way of being, move me closer to my North Star or further away? A life aligned with meaning is an anti-entropic life. It creates a powerful, self-organizing flow that naturally generates order, purpose, and vitality from the inside out. The third and final law is to build your psychic fortress through the simple, profound power of a daily or weekly ritual. In a world that is in a constant conspiracy to fracture your attention and pull you apart, a personal ritual is a radical act of sovereignty. It is you, consciously and deliberately, creating a small pocket of inviolable order and sacred silence in a vast sea of chaos. A ritual, in this deep psychological sense, is not necessarily religious or mystical. It is any intentional, repeated action that serves to center and ground your consciousness. Its power lies not in the complexity or grandeur of what you do, but in the unwavering consistency and sacred intention with which you do it. This practice is the physical manifestation of building a container for yourself. It can be incredibly simple. For Sarah, it might be the first 10 minutes of her morning. Before the phone, before the email, before the chaos, she makes a cup of tea, sits in the same chair by the window, and simply watches the world awaken. She doesn't try to meditate or clear her mind. Her only goal is to be present for those 10 minutes. This simple act tells her unconscious, my peace comes first. Before I give my energy to the world, I give it to myself. For Mark, it could be a closing ritual at the end of his workday. Before leaving the office, he takes 5 minutes to write down the day's accomplishments and then, crucially, writes down the one single task that is most important for tomorrow. He then closes the notebook and visualizes himself closing the door on his manager persona. When he walks out of that office, he is no longer Manager Mark. He is just Mark. This ritual creates a clear boundary, preventing the chaos of work from bleeding into his personal life. These rituals do two critical things. First, they act as an anchor in the storm. No matter how crazy and unpredictable your day becomes, you know you have this fixed point of stillness and order to begin with or return to. It breaks the endless cycle of reactivity. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it trains your attention muscle. In a world designed to destroy your focus, a ritual is a form of resistance training. It teaches your mind how to stay with one single, chosen thing, which is the foundational skill for all other forms of mental organization and deep work. Building this fortress doesn't mean the storms of life won't come crashing against the walls. They will. But it means you will have a safe, fortified, and sacred place within yourself to weather them. It is a tangible, daily practice of choosing order over chaos, a consistent declaration that you are the sovereign ruler of your own inner kingdom. You are not broken. The deep, persistent chaos you feel within is not a sign of a personal flaw or a moral failing. It is a signal. It is the cry of a disorganized and neglected system, a psyche calling out for your loving attention, for integration, and for a connection to a deeper meaning. The journey out of the dense fog of entropy is not about becoming a perfect, emotionless robot or eliminating all of your negative thoughts and feelings. That is an impossible and deeply inhuman goal. The journey is about becoming whole. It is about having the profound courage to turn and face your own shadow, the deep wisdom to find and follow your own North Star, and the quiet discipline to build and inhabit your own inner fortress. You have within you, right now, all the capacity you need to transform this inner chaos from a force that drains you into a source of incredible energy and creativity. Every time you consciously choose to observe a feeling instead of being consumed by it, every time you take one small action that aligns with your deepest values, you are actively reversing the entropic tide. You are the architect of your inner cosmos. The potential for chaos will always be a part of life, but it no longer has to be your reality. You can choose, starting today, to build.